Absolutely. And music and sound can be a wholly universal experience because it crosses boundaries and language
Yeah.
barriers and religious barriers much
Hmm.
better than visual mediums can.
Yeah. Even
Um,
even speech, actually. I mean, because
yeah,
languages, but you don't need a language to hear a but.
yeah, that's right. That's right. And I don't think that's going to offend anybody that I can
No.
think of.
Welcome to Audio Branding, the hidden gem of marketing. I'm your host, Jody Krangle, and this podcast will discuss just how sound influences our behavior. I generally talk about this in the context of advertising and marketing, but there are other places this is important too. I really feel that it plays a much more important role in our lives than maybe we realize. So let's delve a little deeper. This is the second part of my interview with Hamish Macdonald.
You had mentioned spatial sound work previously when we had been talking.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm curious as to how that works with the sound design that you guys put out. When you say spatial sound work, what do you mean exactly?
Well, we have 8 engineers, and often the music is the headline of a job, and
Yeah.
the great sound design and mix work can sometimes be forgotten about a little bit. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so. Spatial sound work has really brought the engineers back to the superstars, the rock stars in the whole equation, which has been lovely to see, especially over these last few years since a resurgence of VR and AR. And,
Mm-hmm.
where working in spatial sound is really being able to place sound effects within a sphere, a 360-degree sphere, so that, in previous versions of virtual reality, if you had goggles on and you needed someone to look to the left, a big arrow would appear and point to the left.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, obviously over the advances in technology, especially in the audio side, now you can actually put a dinosaur roaring to your left, or a drop of water, or anything, then actually direct the head. We did a wonderful project which was one of the most fun that I remember, that our teams has worked on for Mercedes and AMG.
Mm-hmm.
The AMG has a very, very unique sound, and a specific note that the engine makes, this roar. And so we had the clever people at BBDO suddenly say to us, we want audio to be first. We want audio to be the star of this show. So much so that we actually want to put this in cinemas, in the Cinema 4DX to start with, and actually have just a black screen. And we want you to bring the sound of the AMG engine to life.
Wow.
And yeah, which was just such a lovely project for a music and sound house to hear.
Of course.
Yeah. So we ended up, one of our engineers ended up plotting what we could achieve in a 30-second time frame in terms of how many times we could get the car to do a donut around our head, or drive through our brain, or over,
That's
or
great.
under. And we had a lot of fun plotting that out. And
Mm-hmm.
then we ended up hiring this incredible sound designer, sound recordist called Watson Wu, who was on the set of Baby Driver. He was
Mm-hmm.
the head sound recordist from Baby Driver. And we took a couple of AMG Mercedes up to Skid Pan in Toronto, and miking them up and just tearing them to pieces and recording this wonderful audio, that we then
Wow,
got
that
to
must have been fun.
put in. Oh, it was wonderful fun. It was wonderful fun. And again, no camera crews. There was nothing like that. It was all about our engineers and sound recorders being the hero on set, having a lot of fun with it. The result was incredible. People going in. I think they released at the same time as the last Fast and the Furious film, so they
Mm-hmm.
used the same smell of rubber, and the vibration in the seats in the 4DX cinemas. So you'd sit in there, everything would go pitch black, and
Mm-hmm.
suddenly you'd hear the AMG engine start up and start doing donuts, and you smell the rubber. Your seat would be vibrating, and then at the end, just the logo came up, and that was the ad.
Wow, that would be an experience. My goodness.
Yeah, It was, yeah,
How
it was a
much
lot of
fun
fun.
is that?
Yeah.
That's so great. So yeah, talking about the science of all this, because you had mentioned that you have external partners. So how did you figure out that this would be a thing, that this would work?
Well, again, I think it just goes back to that subjective idea in that, we can tell you what the best piece of music is that we feel.
Hmm.
The CMO might believe that that's the best bit of music, or he might believe a different one is. But, what is going to resonate with the listener, and what is going to evoke the right emotions, and what is going to be listened to 190 million times or whatever, like a Netflix logo, Sonic logo,
Hmm.
and still maintain its relevance, or not
Yes.
lose its place in relevance over 2 decades.
And
You
not
know,
annoy you so much that you just want to speed through it.
oh yeah, oh yeah, and there's a few of those out there that
I'm sure. Yes,
just
there are.
rub me the wrong way. But and so we really went, okay, well look, we can pretend that we have the expertise in house,
Hmm.
or we can look out and see who is the best in the world or in the market that can advise us, so
Hmm.
that we can bring them on at an early stage and really direct our creatives, our creative directors and our composers and our engineers, who are all going to have a look at this brief, and hone that direction, and then let us loose. And we find that we get the best results that way. And what we also do is, the CMO should take a lot of comfort in that this is actually not just a well-written piece of music. This actually is written in a way that is relevant to your brand positioning, your customer base.
Hmm.
And I think you could always get a good result, but do you know that it's a good result? And I think, as we spoke before, a great Sonic logo, you don't know that immediately. I don't care who you are,
Yeah.
Brian Eno or not. You don't know that you've got a great Sonic logo till it's been in the market and it's tried and tested, and it's either sitting in as an earworm or it's not.
Yeah, and so true, because a lot of this has to do with repetitiveness, right? So being consistent and repetitive with using these means that they'll either work or annoy the hell out of people.
Absolutely, and and this is where I think I read something recently that I think I have I don't quite agree with, in that
Hmm.
if you read an article on Netflix, the Sonic logo a year ago, it was lauded as the best Sonic logo in the world, and it's incredible. And then there's been a few things in the press recently about how it has negative connotations now, um,
Hmm.
because people are listening to it too much. And I disagree with that, in that I think that what they've been able to achieve. I think the maybe the reporting is slightly skewed, in that I think people are feeling negative about themselves because they've heard it so many times, because they
Yeah.
are binging, and
Yeah.
they're watching more TV than they would really want to admit.
But
Uh,
that's what they're putting on it, not what the brand is actually putting out.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I think the Netflix Sonic logo is a brilliant one, and it's short and sharp. You can binge without it driving you nuts.
Yes.
And the fact that it's in 190 countries or something, and it's distinctive. Anyone can say "tadam." It really sort of plays into the minds of the listener, and yeah, I mean, I think it's wonderful, and it can be as repetitive as it wants, and it will still be relevant.
Yeah. I think that's a key too, because people want to understand the logos, the sonic logos that they're hearing, no matter where you are in the world. And because sound reaches us so deeply, it should be kind of a universal experience.
A-
And yeah,
Absolutely, and music and sound can be a wholly universal experience, because it crosses boundaries and language
yeah.
barriers and religious barriers much
Hmm.
better than visual mediums can.
Yeah.
Um,
Even speech, actually. I mean, because
Yeah.
languages, but you don't need a language to hear a ba-dum.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And I don't think that's going to offend anybody that I
No.
can think of, And, music is, extremely powerful in creating memories, and I think we, as we touched on, its abilities to cross boundaries, as you say, unless there's a vocal cue, it crosses languages, barriers, countries, and, religious beliefs much better than a visual medium can.
Yeah, very much so.
Which is, again, why MasterCard, I think, in particular, in 2016, they took off all wording off their logo for the first time ever. And then obviously in 2019 came up with their first sonic branding exercise, which has been so well received and has Visa scrambling.
Yes. Yeah, I have noticed that. Yes. But yeah, they paid a lot of money for that particular sonic branding. And I mean, it must be paying off for them because, wow.
Yeah, absolutely. And, but as they should, I mean, I was actually chatting to Bradley Vines, who works in neuroscience, that I was talking as one of our external partners about this. And, we were tossing up about, why are people so happy to spend money on visual logos and not so much on audio logos, and they don't really see the difference, and it comes back to this idea of heritage and designing a sound like you would a logo that needs to survive the test of time, be it repetitive or be it the changing of trends or whatever it is. And again, I think this is why I sort of went a little bit against the study recently about Netflix, is that, the Apple logo was designed in 1977. You don't change the logo. You update the logo to make it look a little bit slicker, a little bit more techy, but it is basically the same. It's the same Apple. A little bit closer to home, you have Qantas. They spent millions of dollars and years developing the new kangaroo, the new flying kangaroo, as they call it, on the back of the tail. And all they really ended up doing was sort of putting a few more angles into the tail and into the head and into the knees, so it looked a little bit more aerodynamic and a little bit more futuristic.
Okay.
But, that was something that they needed to do, but they held on to that heritage. And that's why, a really well-designed sonic brand needs to be able to stand that test of time, and people do need to invest in that from an early stage.
Are you looking for ways to improve your company's or podcast's impact? You'd be surprised how powerful the use of an intentional audio branding strategy can be. Want to know more? I have a free downloadable PDF that gives you my 5 tips for implementing an intentional audio strategy at voiceoversandvocals.com/audio-branding-strategy. That location does ask to put you on a mailing list, just to send you updates on when the new podcasts come out. But if you really don't want to give your email out, I understand. Just contact me directly. My email is all over my website, and I'll make sure you get that PDF without needing to sign up anywhere. If you do sign up, though, you also get access to a resources section called The Studio, where I have videos, white papers, and PDFs, discounts from my guests, and snippets of audio from my guests that no one else gets to hear. So maybe it's worth your while. Totally up to you. And of course, if you're looking for voiceovers, you can get in touch with me about that too. Now, back to the podcast.
So why do you think that companies should be investing in an audio brand? What advantage do you think it has for a company? We've sort of touched on bits and pieces of this, but...
Yeah, I mean, we've obviously touched on the fact that music and sound can break barriers. The fact of multisensory experiences are, it improves memory function. It generates stronger emotional response than unisensory experiences. So, you need to have that audio existence. Where more senses are engaged, more of the brain is activated. So there's a much better potential for longer term associations. But then if you just take it back to the most simple side, the market is changing. Technology is changing. Your ability to touch the customer base is changing. I think it was in 2018, $2 billion was spent on voice activated shopping. So no visual medium. It was all voice activated, and their prediction was for that to raise from 2 million to 40 billion by 2022. And obviously, I think with what's happened with COVID and everyone living at home, I think that would have been escalated, and it could even be more than that, or we might have already
definitely
hit that.
Accelerated now. Yeah.
Yeah. And so if you have a brand and you do not have a sonic only presence, you're missing out on a huge market. And these technologies are not new. Home speakers, podcasts, wearables, they're not new. They're years old now. And so I think a lot of brands have got to pull up their socks and catch up.
That's a very good point. Yeah. Yeah. I think it's important these days, especially when we're so inundated with the visuals, because it becomes noise. It becomes noise that isn't audio.
Absolutely. And well, interestingly, that's another thing that I find fascinating, is that because we are stuck in the home, there is so much noise in the home. Obviously in the world, you go out and it's a sensory overload. But in your house that you recognize, there is so many more things going on these days than there ever have in the past. So again, for you to invest and really design a logo that cuts through that noise and cuts through that frequency, and also isn't invasive, because you're touching your customer at their most vulnerable. They're in their home, they're in their safe place. If you're talking about home speakers, they haven't sat down, turned on the TV and decided to lock into the information that's coming to them. Often they're cooking, they're sitting with their kids, and you're touching them. So you can't, you got to be very careful in the way that you do it, and the way that you really do resonate, and you can't invade.
Yes. Yeah, that's a very good point. I have really loved talking with you about this, Hamish. Thank you so much. How can people find out more about your company? Can you tell people where they can reach you and where you are on social media?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you just go to www.squeak and then the letter E clean.com, which you'll fast be able to find us through Facebook and Instagram, using that search engine as well.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much. This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's been lovely to speak to you. Thank you for taking the time and for shining a light on what is such an important area. It's it's fun to talk about nothing but audio.
I am right on board there.
And I look forward to hearing your voice across many campaigns for many years to come.
Well, we'll see what happens. From your mouth to other people's ears. Here we go.
No, that's it. Absolutely.
Thanks again.
All right, Jody. Thanks so much.
Well, that's the end of this episode. Thanks for listening. And if you like what you heard, why not tell a friend about this podcast? It's available on all the usual outlets. Until next time.